When I first got into technology, I was only 13 years old. I didn't know how to code or program any type of app or website. So when my best friend Desmond asked me to go to a hackathon with him one weekend, I immediately said no, because I knew hacking meant coding, and that was something I didn't know how to do yet. I ended up going because curiosity had killed the cat, but in my case, curiosity had actually changed my life. My first introduction into the world of technology was a Kino Labs hackathon. Kino Labs is an Oakland-based tech company that produces these hackathons all across the United States. A hackathon is a 3-day event where mentors from various tech companies come out in support of the youth participants in the creation of whatever app or project they have. And by the end of that weekend on Sunday, they pitch their MVPs or minimum viable products to a panel of judges in hopes to get placed and get some prizes. But Kino Labs puts a twist on all of their hackathons. They have to be centered around societal impact. So imagine a room filled with 13 to 17-year-old students of color brainstorming how they can use technology to make a positive impact to their community. It's some really powerful stuff, but I was only 13. All I knew was this is the most welcome and included I've ever felt. When I was at that event, my friends and I created a social network called Connect the Dots. Connect the Dots is a social network that connects African-American private school students and predominantly white schools together so they have a safe and inclusive environment to share their experiences with discrimination. And it stemmed from our own personal experiences at similar schools, because we felt that our issues and our potential solutions would finally be valued and heard at this hackathon. And I was so inspired. It was such an eye-opening experience for me to finally be introduced into this world of technology that I connected with some of the mentors at that event. And then in preparation for the following hackathon, about a year later, I had taught myself 4 programming languages. But there was a question that was posed to me at that event. It was, could an app have saved Trayvon Martin? Trayvon was murdered for the color of his skin at 17 years old in South Florida by a self-appointed neighborhood watchman. After seeing Trayvon's face plastered all across news outlets over the country, I began to fear for my own life. Because not only as a young person of color growing up, you're told that you have a target on your back at all times, and you have to be extremely cautious of how you move and behave in the world. But growing up in Oakland, California, you're exposed to police brutality on such a consistent basis, it's traumatizing. So by 15 years old, I was undoubtedly afraid of police officers. Around the same time, Kino Labs was back in town with another hackathon. So I knew this was going to be the best space for me to deal with this overwhelming amount of anxiety. I created an app called CopStop. CopStop is the 21st century key from staying safe from police brutality. It's now live on the iOS App Store, available for download. But in the development of this app, I spoke to sociologists, psychologists, civil rights attorneys, social justice advocates, the mayor of Oakland, multiple police departments, and police chiefs, because I knew if I was going to create an app aimed to save lives, that I needed the highest quality of information possible to do so. Through CopStop and that second hackathon, I earned myself a tech internship in the mayor of Oakland's office for 2 summers. It was an amazing experience, to say the least. Mind you, I'm the only kid in the office for 2 summers. And this is where I get invited to my very first tech conference, ironically named Code for America, in the heart of Oakland, California. And this Code for America conference is about 2,500 government officials all across the United States coming in one place to share how they can use the technologies that they create for social change. And now I'm really excited because I'm 15 years old. I get to miss school with my mom, and I get to go to this huge tech conference. I told all my friends about it. And for everyone that knows me understands that I'm a social butterfly. I love to connect, and I love to share my story and listen to others. I love to network. So I was so eager to get into another socially conscious, supportive tech event that when I got there, I immediately shelled up because it was the exact opposite. If you can imagine a gallon of vanilla ice cream and then 2 chocolate chips smack dab in the middle, that was my mother and I at this event. So I was completely closed off. For the whole day, until the very end, I didn't talk to anyone. I was just listening, and I was observing. I started hearing the whispers of, why is this kid here? He should be in school. What is he even doing here? Who brought him over here? And I had the same feelings that I did when I was 13 at that predominantly white school. I felt isolated, and I felt like I didn't belong. It wasn't until my mom finally encouraged me at the very end of the day, because she had skipped work. She was tired of me being a punk and being quiet. So I finally gathered up enough courage to talk to someone, and she told me the person to talk to. Mind you, this wasn't just anybody at the conference. This was the one person everybody wanted to talk to. She just got off a private plane, just finished her talk, and there's lines around the corner of the stage waiting to just introduce themselves to her. This is Megan Smith, the Chief Officer for Technology and Assistant to President Obama, who's my president still. Yeah. So once I gathered enough courage, I walk over, and she sees me from across the room, and she parts the sea of people like Moses and introduces herself to me. And I'm sure out of sheer curiosity, because I was the only kid, but we have the most empowering 15-minute conversation. We connect on the fact that we're both minorities in the tech industry. At 15, I didn't know women were as underrepresented as black folks. Again, I was 15. But that whole conversation hit a bit different because everyone else was jealous around me that I got to talk to her, so I felt that she saw potential and value in me that I didn't see yet. And she gave me some of the best advice that she could. She told me to go visit one of the largest tech companies in the world. Their colors are a lot like this. And after I connected with a few of the mentors she had introduced me with at that conference, I got to be the very first in a pilot program at that company. I essentially got to be a developer for a day. I got assigned a project, I had to code it, I had to finish it, and then present it in the department that I was working in. And I was in the Department of Data Analytics. And I cannot express how excited I was. This was the moment I had been waiting for since I was 13 and got interested in technology. Every nerd wants to go to Silicon Valley and play around and have it feel like home. But when I was there, that was just it. It wasn't. I felt the same way that I did when I was 13 years old at the predominantly white school. And the same feelings of isolation that I was at that Code for America conference. I felt like I didn't belong. And it was so disturbing to me because my friends and I back in Oakland had been working so hard to get to a company like this. We put all of the tech giants on a pedestal. And once I was there, I saw the racial disparity. And you don't really feel the 2% of black and Latinos at these tech companies until it's in your face and you're forced to deal with it. And I was forced to deal with it at 15 when I was there for one day. And that was enough for me to say that they weren't taking it as seriously as I'd like them to be taking it. And that's when I made the conscious decision to found my own company and do something about it. This is when I founded my tech company, George Hofstetter Technologies Incorporated, in hopes of changing the world's perspective on race through technology. These technologies being Connect the Dots and CopStop. And my first big event after incorporating my company, I had flown out to McLean, Virginia, to Capital One headquarters, where I was the keynote at their very first tech conference. And by now, I'm 16, 17. I'm used to being the only kid at these events, so it wasn't really that special to me. But when I was there, at the very end of my talk, they had announced that they'd be sponsoring the very first project coming out of the incorporation of my company, Up to Code Academy. Up to Code is a free mobile computer science curriculum designed for students of color. It was built to be that bridge of access. It's called the digital divide. It's that gap of access between the students that may have computer science in their curriculum and can learn on whatever pace they like, and the difference between a student that doesn't have it in their curriculum and doesn't know where to get the quality of resources to teach themselves how to code. Up to Code is that bridge. And from Up to Code, I began teaching way more in Oakland, computer science workshops, design thinking workshops. I began speaking to more police departments that wanted to better their practices with the black community. And then I started doing it in Oklahoma, and Florida, and Tennessee, and most recently London, England, and Johannesburg, South Africa. Now, out of all of my experiences, there was one that I frame as life-changing. A few months back, I was speaking at Colin Kaepernick's Know Your Rights camp in South Florida, where he introduced me to Trayvon's mother. And she gave me the biggest hug. I got to finally share with her all of the work that I've been doing that was all inspired by her son. And that hug, and then her words of advice of never stop sharing your story, is something that I'm going to keep with me forever. And she reached into her bag and gave me some bracelets. And these bracelets say, I am Trayvon Martin, you are Trayvon Martin, with the instructions of you give these to people that you think deserve to wear them. I haven't taken mine off since. From all of the workshops and projects that I've done, they all stem from the same idea of defining your own reality. I practice that through technology creation, which means we have to start being creators, not someone else's consumer. The public school system, since it was created, was structured to stifle creativity and dismantle this idea of critical thinking. Instead of accepting that, let's restructure it. We can redesign how we communicate and learn with one another. We can use technology as a platform to build an educational system without the influence of white supremacy. I know it's uncomfortable, but if you've been waiting for someone to tell you it's time to keep questioning, let it be me. Curiosity doesn't always lead to death. In truth, it can be the strongest catalyst for change. Thank you.